For over 3 long years, this psychiatrist observed, analyzed, and studied the mechanisms of psychological survival. He discovered that human resilience does not depend on what people usually assume. The physically stronger did not always survive. Neither did the more intelligent. Even those with extensive experience in suffering were not necessarily more resilient. No, there was something else. 5 precise psychological mechanisms which, once activated, made a person mentally almost unbreakable. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the hardest situation you have ever gone through. That time when everything seemed to collapse and you wondered how you could go on. Now imagine that difficulty multiplied 1,000 times. Everything that makes you who you are, your name, your status, your possessions, your freedom, erased. What would still make you get up every morning? Most people think it would be the survival instinct, the hope of rescue, or sheer habit. But the truth discovered in those camps goes far beyond that. In the next 35 minutes, I will reveal to you these 5 secrets with surgical precision, secrets backed by decades of scientific research, harrowing testimonies, and concrete strategies that you can apply immediately. Each of these secrets was tested under the most extreme conditions humanity has ever known. If it worked there, just imagine the power it can unleash in your everyday life. But let me warn you, this knowledge will shake the way you look at difficulties, failures, and even the meaning of your existence. Once you recognize these mechanisms, you will never again say, "I can't do it," because you will know exactly which psychological resource you have been neglecting. Before we begin, let us make a mutual promise. I commit to giving you these secrets without disguise in their full, revolutionary force. And you commit to staying until the very end, because the 5th secret, which literally saved thousands of lives, will only be revealed at the conclusion. If these insights transform your outlook on life, promise me that you will share this knowledge, because in a world where so many people feel powerless, these secrets could truly save lives. Are you ready to discover what lies hidden in the 1% of humanity's most powerful psychological insights? The first secret: a meaning stronger than pain. In these camps of horror, our psychiatrist observed something both extraordinary and disturbing. 2 prisoners in the very same barrack, enduring the same deprivations, the same humiliations, the same daily terrors, and yet one survived while the other completely broke down. For months, he investigated this phenomenon with the scientific eye of a psychiatrist and discovered a fundamental difference that changed everything. The one who had a why, the hope of seeing his wife again, finishing a manuscript he had hidden in his jacket, bearing witness to the atrocities, passing on a scientific discovery, found an inexhaustible energy to go on, even when his body screamed in agony, even when the horrors defied comprehension. This inner flame remained alive. It was stronger than hunger, stronger than cold, stronger than humiliation. He captured it in a sentence that still resonates today. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But this is not just beautiful philosophy born from suffering, it is scientific truth, confirmed by dozens of modern studies. The University of Michigan tracked 7,000 people over 9 years. The astonishing result: those with a clear life purpose had an immune system 50% stronger than the others. Harvard conducted a long-term study and found that people with a strong sense of purpose lived an average of 7 years longer and were 50% less likely to develop Alzheimer's. Even more fascinating are the findings of neuroscience. MRI scans show that with a clear sense of purpose, the brain literally restructures itself. The prefrontal cortex, our executive control center, becomes more active and better connected. And even more importantly, people with a strong sense of purpose produce less cortisol, the stress hormone, and more serotonin, the happiness hormone, even under difficult conditions. Almost as if the brain was saying, "Okay, I know why we are doing this. Now I will mobilize all resources on Bangkok." Let me tell you the most moving story I have ever heard. In that camp, there was a man who had lost everything: his family, his work, his life savings. Day after day, he told himself, "Why keep going? Everything is over." One day, someone showed him a crumpled photo he had secretly carried, a picture of his 2 little daughters. At the sight of their innocent faces, he told himself, they must know what happened here. Someone must tell them the story of their grandfather overnight. This man transformed. He began memorizing every detail, every name, every face. He helped the weaker ones, organized small support networks. His mission became his strength. He survived. And after the war, he actually found his granddaughters again, and not only passed on his story to them, but also a life lesson they would never forget. But not all whys are equally powerful. Research distinguishes 3 types of purpose that give special strength. Relational purpose. I must survive to see my family again, protect my children, care for my parents. Creative purpose. I have something unique I want to give the world, to complete a work, to share a discovery. And testimonial purpose. I must bear witness, pass it on, ensure that such a thing never happens again. Here is a small exercise that has already changed thousands of lives. Take a sheet of paper and answer these questions. If you were told that you had only 1 year left to live, what is the most important thing you absolutely must accomplish? What would make you look back on your life from your deathbed with pride? Which injustice in this world outrages you so much that you would dedicate your life to fighting it? Your answers will reveal your true why. And be careful, once you find it, your life will never be the same again. Look at the examples around you. Why does a mother get up every day at 5 in the morning to work and still take care of her children? Why does a researcher devote decades to the same project despite constant setbacks? Why do entrepreneurs keep going even after several failures? It is not naive optimism. It is the power of meaning. Now I want you to look deep inside yourself. What is your true why? Not the one you think should matter, but the one that keeps you standing even when everything around you falls apart. Share it in the comments. Inspire others, because sometimes another person's why helps us discover our own. Because this first secret is only the beginning. The second reveals a freedom that no one can take from you. The second secret, the last human freedom. Even in the inferno of the camps, stripped of family, freedom, and dignity, our psychiatrist discovered something extraordinary. There was a freedom no one, absolutely no one, could take from him. The freedom to choose his attitude toward his circumstances. In the worst moments, when everything seemed lost, he told himself, they can take everything from me, except the last human freedom, my freedom to choose my response to what happens to me. This realization is revolutionary because it completely changes how we view victimhood. We are not passive victims of our circumstances. Even in the most extreme situations, we retain the power to choose our response. Psychologists call this the internal locus of control, the belief that we have influence over our reactions and decisions. And science confirms it. Stanford University followed 1,000 people who had experienced severe trauma, accidents, serious illnesses, job loss, the death of a loved one. The result, those who focused on what they could control, their reactions, their decisions, their attitude, recovered 3 times faster than those who fixated on what was uncontrollable. Even more striking, brain scans show that people with an internal locus of control literally develop a thicker prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation. An example, Martin, a businessman, lost everything in 2008, his company, house, savings. Within months, his world collapsed. His wife left him and took the children. Martin had 2 options, see himself as a victim or take back control. For the first 6 months, he chose victimhood. He drank, blamed the crisis, the government, his wife, fate. The result? Deep depression, no perspective. Then he came across a quote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom." Martin realized he had given away his power. He began asking himself, what can I control right now? The answer, his actions, his attitude, his decisions today. Within 2 years, he had built a new, even more fulfilling life, with a new company, a new love, and above all, a strength within himself he had never thought possible. Our psychiatrist identified 3 levels of freedom that always remain with us. Level 1, the freedom of perception. The same situation, but you decide how to interpret it. Catastrophe or opportunity to grow, defeat or learning moment, injustice or challenge. Level 2, the freedom of emotional response. The first emotion you cannot prevent. It is automatic. But the next one is in your hands. Do you stay in bitterness or choose determination? Level 3, the freedom of action. In every situation, there is always at least one possible action, even if tiny. Simply choosing to breathe consciously is already a choice, an act of resistance against despair. Here is a technique born of these observations. Between every stimulus, what happens to you, and your response, create within yourself a sacred space, even if just 1 second, to ask, how do I want to respond? That little pause changes everything. Instead of reacting automatically, you become the conscious creator of your experience again. Look at top athletes. They cannot control the weather, the referee's mistakes, or their opponent's form. But they control their mind, their preparation, their responses point by point. You can develop exactly this champion's mindset in your own life. Roger Federer always says the same thing after a bitter defeat. I cannot change what just happened, but I can decide how I react to it and how I prepare for the next time. Here is a revolutionary practical exercise. Draw 3 concentric circles. Inner circle, things you fully control, your thoughts, your actions, your decisions. Middle circle, things you can influence, your relationships, your close environment. Outer circle, things you cannot control, other people, the economy, the past. The golden rule is, invest 80% of your energy in the inner circle, 20% in the middle, and 0% in the outer. This redistribution of attention alone changes entire lives. Recent studies reveal something fascinating. When you consciously exercise this freedom of choice, your brain releases dopamine, the hormone of reward and motivation. It is as if your brain rewards you for taking back control over your life. My question to you: in what difficult situation in your life did you discover that you had more control than you thought? And how did this awareness change your attitude? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might be the very spark someone else needs to take back the power over their own life. But if you think these first 2 secrets are already powerful, wait until you hear the third. It may move you the most. The third secret: beauty in the heart of suffering. This was perhaps the most astonishing discovery of our psychiatrist. In one of the camps of horror, on a freezing December evening, something unbelievable happened. The prisoners, exhausted and broken after a day of inhuman labor, suddenly stopped. Together they lifted their eyes to the sky. A sunset of breathtaking beauty lit up the horizon, seen through barbed wire. For a few minutes, in that place of death, these men gazed in silent awe at this pure beauty. And our psychiatrist understood something revolutionary. Even in absolute horror, the human soul preserves its capacity for wonder. At the time, this observation seemed crazy, poetic, almost out of place. Yet modern science gives it astonishing depth. The University of North Carolina found that people who are able to recognize small moments of beauty, even in dark times, produce 40% less cortisol, the stress hormone, and recover 60% faster emotionally. Even more fascinating, the sight of beauty activates the same areas of the brain as the strongest antidepressants. Beauty is not a luxury, it is medicine. Let me tell you the story of Sophia. She had to endure the hardest trial a mother can face, the loss of her child in an accident. For months, she was trapped in her pain. The world had lost all color, all taste, all beauty. She survived, but she no longer lived. One morning, she saw a robin through her window building its nest in the old garden tree. For a few seconds, just a few seconds, she forgot her pain and admired this little creature preparing new life. Those seconds became the first ray of light in her dark tunnel. Sophia understood something fundamental. Her pain was justified and eternal, but it could coexist with moments of pure beauty. One did not erase the other. She began to collect these small moments, a child's laughter on the street, a melody on the radio, a sunbeam on her hand. Not to suppress her pain, but to nourish her soul while carrying it. Today, Sophia helps other grieving parents and teaches them to perceive beauty without guilt, to strengthen themselves with light, even in darkness. Psychologists call this phenomenon post-traumatic growth. It does not mean denying or suppressing suffering. It means that humans can learn to experience pain and beauty at the same time. A study from the University of Wisconsin found that 80% of people who overcame a major trauma reported an increased sensitivity to the beauty of the world. It is as if suffering strips away the usual filters and reveals the pure beauty that has always surrounded us. In the camps, our psychiatrist identified 3 kinds of beauty that especially nourished the soul. Natural beauty, a sunset, a tree, a bird, even a snowflake. Nature continues its course and reminds us that life is greater than our suffering. Human beauty, a gesture of tenderness, a compassionate look, an honest smile. Such moments show that humanity survives even in the inhuman. Creative beauty, a quiet melody, a poem recited from memory, a drawing scribbled into the dust. Art proves that the human spirit can create beauty, even when everything seems destroyed. Finally, a revolutionary ritual that I myself have practiced for years. Every evening, write down 5 things you found beautiful that day. Not 5 good things, but 5 beautiful things. The play of light on the wall in your office, the concentrated expression on your colleague's face, the melody someone hummed in the elevator, the texture of your morning coffee, the smile of a stranger on the street. At first it is difficult. Our brains are not trained to notice beauty. But after a few weeks, something incredible happens. Your nervous system recalibrates, and you begin to see beauty everywhere. Japanese neuroscientists have made a remarkable discovery. When we consciously look at something beautiful, our brain produces endorphins, the same molecules released during orgasm or after intense physical exercise. In other words, beauty is a natural drug our brain makes itself. In one of the camps, there was a professional violinist. Of course, his instrument had been taken from him, but every evening, in the dim light of the barrack, he played on an invisible violin. His fingers danced in the air, his eyes closed, his face glowed, and something magical happened. Other prisoners came closer, closed their eyes, and listened to the music he did not actually play. This silent music nourished them more than the thin soup they were given. The violinist survived the war. Later he said, "For 3 years I played Bach every night. Bach kept me alive, not the hope of liberation." From this, our psychiatrist understood something revolutionary. In the camp, the search for beauty was an act of resistance. It meant telling the tormentor, "You can destroy my body, but not my ability to be moved by beauty." It was the preservation of one's humanity in the face of dehumanization. Now apply this to your own life. In the midst of difficulties, trials, dark moments, you possess the same power of resistance. Consciously seeking beauty is not escape. It is psychological survival. It means nourishing your soul as it walks through the storm. Think about this. Which moment of pure beauty touched you the most during a hard time? Perhaps a film, a ray of sunlight, a song, or a glance. Share this moment in the comments, because sometimes the beauty another person has seen helps us open our own eyes again, but you haven't seen anything yet. The next secret reveals the most powerful psychological weapon against despair. The 4th secret, the goal as a compass for survival. In the camps of horror, our psychiatrist observed a fascinating phenomenon. Faced with the same cruelties, some prisoners carried a strange light in their eyes. They had something others had lost, a mental goal. These survivors possessed a clear purpose that was stronger than their immediate suffering. To be reunited with family, to bear witness to the world, to complete a scientific work, to publish a hidden manuscript. This observation may sound anecdotal, but modern research gives it incredible depth. Oxford University conducted the longest study in history on this subject. They followed 5,000 people over 30 years. The result? People with a clear goal lived on average 7 years longer, had 50% less risk of developing heart disease, their immune systems were 60% stronger, and they recovered 3 times faster from trauma. Even more fascinating is what happens in the brain. MRI scans show that people with a life goal literally develop a different brain. The prefrontal cortex, the center for planning and control, becomes thicker. The hippocampus, the center for memory and learning, becomes more active. The amygdala, our center of fear and stress, calms down. In other words, a clear goal rewires your brain for resilience. The most moving story about this concerns a doctor in the camp who had hidden the manuscript of his life's work in his jacket, a groundbreaking discovery on the treatment of depression. One day the guards found the manuscript and burned it before his eyes. He broke down. He had lost his reason to survive. But then he told himself, "They have burned the paper, but not my knowledge. I will recreate the manuscript page by page from memory, and it will be even better." Every night he rewrote his book in his mind, improved it, expanded it, perfected it. This mental goal became his psychological fortress. He survived. And after the war, he actually published this book, which revolutionized the treatment of depression and saved thousands of lives. His goal not only kept him alive, it made him stronger. Our psychiatrist identified 4 types of goals that provide special power for survival. Relational goal: I must be reunited with my family, protect my children, reconcile. Creative goal: I have a work to complete, something unique to give the world. Goal of justice: I must bear witness, prevent repetition, right a wrong. Goal of transmission: I must teach what I have learned and prepare the next generation. The revolutionary insight is this: a goal works like a mental telescope. It allows you to see beyond immediate suffering toward a purpose that gives that suffering meaning. Without a goal, every obstacle seems insurmountable. With a goal, every obstacle becomes a test on your path. A modern story makes this mechanism tangible. Sarah, founder of a groundbreaking mental health startup, failed 5 times in 2 years. Family and friends urged her to give up. She was exhausted, broke at the end. But Sarah